Now, you're going to be hearing from quite a few bankers on this program tonight. Let's start with Barclays. It's been on the continent for the better part of a century now, but that relationship is coming to an end. Last year, of course, you'll recall the parent firm announced the decision to sell most of its stake in its African operations. By the end of 2014, that firm had over 12 million clients right across the continent. At the World Economic Forum on Africa, I spoke to Peter Matlare. He's the Deputy CEO of the Barclays Africa Group about the lender's exit from the continent.
I call it a decoupling. So remember, we've been in many of these markets for 100 years. We've become embedded in those societies. We're systemically important in many of the societies.
There's usually top 3, top 5 in most of those markets.
We've always been in the sort of top 3 or 4, and we aim to remain in the top 3 even post the exit of Barclays PLC. It's also important, I always say, to make the point that Barclays PLC isn't just exiting its businesses on the African continent. It's done a review around the world and has exited many other markets. And I say that because the tendency is to believe there's something wrong with our continent. If anything, we've been one of the best performing assets for Barclays PLC. We've put in all of the relevant applications to all the different regulators. We wait for approvals. In the event that the approvals are given or when they're given, there's a 3-year period during which the decoupling then takes place. And what do I mean by that? The first part, obviously, is Barclays PLC will over time sell down its shareholding in Barclays Africa Group, which is the group that owns all of the underlying assets. So whether it's ABSA in South Africa, Barclays Bank Kenya, where we're the majority shareholder, Barclays Bank Botswana, Mauritius, Seychelles, etc. So that process goes through. We've worked very closely with our colleagues in PLC to ensure that we do that in as close to a risk-free manner as possible. There's never no risk, but we've certainly instituted a number of gateways to try and manage that risk or those risks carefully. And while at the same time, every time you go and put your card into that automatic teller machine, your cash comes out. So we're going to walk, run, and fly at the same time, because we also want to continue to build this franchise for the next 100 years across our continent.
Barclays PLC sells down. But then 5 years, 10 years from now, once the entire process is complete, what will Barclays Africa Group, and I use that term loosely here, what will it look like? Will it still be using the Barclays brand? Will it be something completely different?
Yeah. So part of the agreement, obviously subject to all of the approvals, is that after a 3-year period from the initial sell down, which would happen when we get the agreement, 3 years, after 3 years, the Barclays PLC brand, or the Barclays brand, will move on. So we will no longer have that brand after a 3-year period. So what we have to make sure is, in that transitional phase, that we deliver for our customers with precision and capability and expertise to ensure that that journey continues the way they would have always wanted it to.
By the end of 2016, we were looking at about 12% of Barclays PLC stake in BAGL had already been sold down. Where is it at now? How much does PLC still hold?
So the sit was just over 50 plus 1, call it 50.1% in Barclays Africa Group.
Yes.
For them to sell below that, they require the approval of not only the South African Reserve Bank as a regulator, but also the South African Minister of Finance. That was part of the condition of the original sale that was in place, or that is in place, and therefore they would do that over a period of time. What that period will be, I couldn't. They are the sellers of the shares, but quite clearly everybody wants to do that in a manner that is orderly and transparent and all of those things.